Do you struggle from infertility or know someone who does? Today, my guest shares how to cope with the triggers and how to listen to your inner compass on this episode of Coffee with Tea. Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tonia and Tyler, and I'm excited because we're going to be talking about wounds of your as your wisdom. And I have Miss Natascha. I'm going to let you pronounce your last name because I've been messing up last names, and I don't want to mess it up because it's such a beautiful name. So, Miss Natascha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you. And so here's my last name. It's tricky. It's so my full name is Natascha Hebell Fernando, and actually the Hebell is a German name, but the way it's spelled is a little bit different. So even in Germany, they would mispronounce my name. So you're totally okay.
I just wanted to say I honor people's names, and if I know I'm going to mess it up because I didn't ask you ahead of time how to pronounce it, so I was like, oh my god. So please forgive me. Please forgive me.
No, not needed.
So thank you for coming on, and we're going to talk about your wounds as your wisdom, as your insight and stuff like that. But before we really dive into your story and stuff like that, can you let us know who are you, what are you about, and how are you dealing with this whole COVID-19 thing?
Oh, well, that's a great question. So actually my background is I did scientific research way back when, and I was probably one of the first thousands of people who worked on a PCR, which is now being used for the COVID tests, actually. So I did molecular biology way back when for some genetic testing. But really, my background is I morphed into somebody who went over to the dark side under quotation marks because I became an acupuncturist and holistic medicine practitioner. And so that's what I do nowadays. I do have a small acupuncture clinic in Mesa, Arizona, where I live, called Red Mountain Acupuncture. And then I work with clients worldwide. I do online health coaching. And what I do in particular is I work with women that are coping with the consequences of being childless, not by choice. And I kind of work through the same principles with everyone that we really have to kind of dig deep and find our own inner truth and being able to listen to our own inner compass, which sometimes is not easy because things can get so muddled and confused with different trauma. And the trauma brings me to COVID. It's just a real traumatic event, I think, for so many of us. And, for me, in particular, just from my own perspective, here in Arizona, actually one of the first people that did die from COVID was somebody that I used to work with more than 10 years ago. So that was a real shock to me. And it was somebody that was younger than me in their late 40s. And so it's real, and I see so many people that don't really agree with that. And there's so much I don't know if it's confusion or just different narratives, even within some of my, healthcare communities. And so for me, I just err on the side of caution. And what I would like to say is just that really it gives us more insight into how important it is that we take control of our own health in the sense that, we can only do as much as we can do, which is eat as healthy as we can, like 90% of the time try to eat something that is good for your body, stay away from the usual processed food and sugars, exercise, get sunlight, sleep, relax, and try to live in kind of harmony with the world that's around you, within yourself, and wash your hands a lot and wear the mask. And but what I want to say is, for COVID, for me personally, what has been the hardest thing, I had to close my clinic for about 6 or 8 weeks in Arizona because it wasn't sure if acupuncture was considered essential or not. Well, we are. And so I started to see patients again. But the problem that I have a lot is I cannot see people's faces. and they cannot see mine. I think it's really unfortunate that with masks, you cannot see the facial expressions. You can't see the smile that people have. And I think there's just so much connection that's being lost. And that is truly traumatic for us, as a human species, I think, because we are social beings and we rely on these nonverbal cues when we are together, and so Zoom has been kind of a lifesaver, I'm sure, for so many people, but it's still just not the same. So it's a really tricky situation, I would say, for everything and everyone.
Right, right, right. You make a valid point, because like you said, it's like you want to have that connection. So I applaud you, because like I said, Zoom has been a life source for me, and how I can stay connected. So that's a great source. So and I like, we touched a little bit about your story. It's like, and I know this had to come to a deep insight, an inner spirit for you to get to the level that you're at. So would you like to share a little bit of how your story came about and how you felt like this was time to share it?
Yes, yes, of course. And I have to say that your wounds are your wisdom. It's actually Oprah said that. So I'm just, I have to give her credits for that, but it's just so true, And so my story really is that, I was really kind of like in the Western medicine world. I believe like everything was just the body was kind of working like a machine, something spoken, you fix it, and you take pharmaceuticals to elicit a certain physiological response in the body, which is needed. It is needed. I'm not saying that's not important, but I kind of didn't realize how much our mind and spirit actually have a play in our lives and our health in particular. So my story is that once I got married, I was still in my late 20s, and we wanted to get pregnant right away, and it didn't happen. And then I decided, well, I'll try acupuncture, which was like super out of my comfort zone. Okay, I was absolutely terrified of needles, and this is like way too woo woo. I'm like, oh my gosh. But somehow I heard about, okay, it helps with fertility. So I go and see this acupuncturist. The woman, she was probably in her 30s or something. And, everything was just so strange about her. Like the things she was telling me, like, dairy, you might be sensitive to dairy, and, the sugar thing. I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about, whatever. It just didn't really, it just didn't really make sense to me. But so finally, once I experienced the acupuncture, it's like, wow, I just feel really good afterwards. I was like really amazed. I'm like, there's something going on when you experience like holistic therapies of that kind. You kind of feel that energy moving, right? That chi, that kind of thing that you can't really study in anatomy class, because only living beings have it. And so, okay, so we didn't get pregnant, and I just, I got another job. I couldn't go there anymore. So I really was always kind of focused on career and kind of like success in those terms, right? To kind of rise up through the ranks. And I did experience from time to time real sadness, because there was nobody I could talk about not having children. Everybody around me was getting pregnant, and birthday parties and different things, and it was very difficult. I would get very emotional, really sad, and I would even say depressed. But I was like, well, how can that really be? Because it just hasn't happened yet, whatever. Like every month I was kind of hoping, and my husband's like, count your blessings, blah blah blah. Again, nobody else to talk to. And I just and I always only realized that really like decades later. I just got really into work. I got into running and did all these half marathons and even one marathon, and just doing all these things. And while I was doing that, I was just like really kind of burning out. And I said, okay, so I was in my early 40s. I said, what am I really doing with my life? What am I working for? What's my legacy? And again, this childlessness kind of came up. It's like, what is my purpose in this world? So I really kind of had a major midlife crisis. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to medical school. And then I looked into the MCATs, but I was like, I want to do something a little bit different, because I had understood at that point that Western medicines, where it's very valid for, trauma and certain things, it's really good. But I understood that like Eastern medicine, like acupuncture, there was something really fascinating to it. And I also had experienced homeopathy. So I was looking into what can I do. And so the Phoenix Institute of Herbal Medicine and Acupuncture came up. It was here in the region. I said, okay, I went there. I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I told my husband, I got it all figured out, worked out the numbers. I could do this. I'm going to become an acupuncturist. So I went back to school and I just went through it in like record time because I was super motivated and I got credits for, what I had done with my previous degree. And so I just finished record time, valedictorian, opened my clinic, busy within a few months. And I just like really like took off and it was great. And then, and you probably guessed what happened next. I just totally burnt out. I mean, I was just like, there was just nothing left. Okay. And it was really tough because I invested in a pretty big clinic. And I mean, it was just horrible. And I couldn't really, like, I was like so ashamed and guilty, like talking about it's like, I can't do this anymore. And so anyway, after like really feeling bad about it, because it was like, this was like my dream to really have like this successful big clinic, but I was just empty inside. Like there was like nothing more I could give. So what I did is I actually sold the space and I went on kind of like a halfway sabbatical. I really contracted, just saw my regular patients a few days a week. And I was really like working on, it's like, what is going on? What are these like self-sabotaging patterns that I discover in myself? And why am I like such an overachiever to the point of like working myself to death, basically? And and then I had this epiphany. I'm like, I don't know, somebody talked about soul story. And I'm like, what is that one event that really like, had a big impact on your life? And it really was that one visit we had to a reproductive endocrinologist where we found out some, not really issues, but some problems with our ability to have children. And I remember at the time, like everything just changed for me because all of a sudden our journey towards becoming parents became this kind of, I don't want to say chore, but it just all of a sudden it became like tainted. And I felt like there was like the Natascha before all this happened was like a confident person looking forward to the future. And then there was this event that's happened. And then, every month having this disappointment, every month, like maybe I'm like a few days late and I'm like, oh, maybe like a miracle. Until like I was like almost 50, I was really still hoping. And I never really had like accept that and kind of, what, this is just what it is and it's okay, And so I really had to work through that and I had to process the grief. And I had so much grief and sadness. So I really worked through that. And I did most of it, alone because I worked through the process that I worked with other people like for burnout or other things, because I had realized you had to come to an understanding how your life really is as not just like a person, just like in a mechanical terms, like this is just a person with, organs that are working, but as a soul that also has a mind and a spirit. And so once you have this understanding, you accept, okay, this is where I'm at. So how can I move forward, right? What can I do next? And then look at creative ways of finding an expression of yourself, and not just on a quotation mark, like procreation, right? Not just as having children, but actually leaving a legacy that's something different than, leaving your own DNA in this world, basically, with your children. And then move to that alignment where you can really find your voice, talk about it, and be your own best advocate to get to a place where you can really feel empowered and expand into kind of like a fearless future. That's what I call it when I talk to my clients. Like you find your fearless future. And so I really had to work through those steps. And that's why I'm sharing my story, because I know that especially women that are a little bit older, that maybe in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, I know that all of us still have these trigger moments when we're like, oh my gosh, we just don't have children, we'll never have grandchildren, and it just hits you from time to time, and that is normal, but you can work through it. And if you're younger, you can work through it, and you can find, a purpose in life that's so much bigger than you ever thought was possible. So I really want to give that message of hope to everyone that kind of knows deep in their heart what I'm talking about.
Well, I love how you touch it, and I want to take a moment here to really say, if you're enjoying what Natascha is putting down, and you're really enjoying the what she's really sharing, and you can relate to it, please consider hitting that like button. And if you have any questions and comments, please put them in there so we can have her maybe answer some, or you can connect with her for more stuff. But really, what I think we sort of like touched over it a little bit, but you had an emptiness. You felt like there was an emptiness there, and you filled it with other things, but the other things weren't just filling it, like your job and all that stuff. So
exactly,
so you had to have that pause moment to really actually figure out and ask yourself, what is it that's missing? Is that what I'm hearing that you had?
yes, exactly. I was like feeling, I was feeling my inner void that I didn't even realize it was an inner void, but it was this kind of quest for always something more, and always something that comes in from the outside, right? I had to start, like you said, push the pause button and really look deep inside. What is it? What is going on deep inside of me? And that's when I discovered, oh my gosh, I have this deep sense of lost opportunities in that sense, and grief, really grieving for what had never been. And yeah, it's like this invisible grief, it's also called invisible grief for some of the advocates that work in the childless not by choice world. And it's really this invisible grief, because there's really, how do you explain that to somebody? I couldn't talk with my mom about it because she had me, right? And I really didn't know anybody, because most women either did get pregnant or it was just by choice. I'm just child free, I'm okay with it. It's and maybe some people don't find it as difficult to get over it, but I know that there are so many women that really, for them that was like a dream when they were already little kids. They wanted to have this family, and it's not as easy as like just adopt or try it or whatever. It goes really deep to the core of who you are as a human being, because I think once we are in this world, and for example as a woman, like it's just natural to have the ability to become a mother. It's then a choice, do you want to be it or not? But it's kind of like, I mean, that's kind of part of who we are, right? And so whether if it's by infertility or medical interventions, or something that you can, or you don't find the right partner, but there is this inner longing, and if you keep on tucking it away in a neat little box inside your body somewhere, it will surface as something later on, be it the burnout syndrome, or I don't know, fibromyalgia, or whatever it is. It's just so important to be able to stand within like your inner, that's why I called it the sanctuary. It's like your golden sanctuary, like within yourself, and find that inner light and let it shine, and acknowledge, okay, I had these expectations, okay, they're not happening. I mean, life happens, fate happens, your destiny, but trust that inner light, that you find something that really makes it shine bright in this world.
Right. And I know, like, so you touched on that you want to leave the hope with everybody, but I wanted to also touch, because you have a lot of golden nuggets, and I think we're just like on the tip of the iceberg on some things. So
Yeah.
my question, and I think we might not even have enough time to really dive into
Yes.
it, like, how do you deal with the society of putting it on women to actually, where's my grandchild? Because I fall into that with my children as well. So it's like, we can go deeper into that, because I really like to really see if we can hone into that message a little bit more. But right now, I would love to have you come back. Would you be willing to come back?
Oh, I would love to. Yes. I mean, definitely, this is just kind of like a big overview, a big mountain of stuff. And yes, I would definitely love to be a guest again.
Well, thank you. Because really, I'm down to like a minute and some change, and I really want to dive
Okay.
so much more into more stuff. What I want to know, really, before we close up, where can people find more information about you, your services, and what you do?
Well, the Golden Sanctuary, that's my website. The Golden Sanctuary, that's the one that's specifically for childless women. And there you can find access to a private Facebook group that I have. It's a free support group. It's called Beyond Infertility and Unintended Childlessness. So if you go on Facebook, you can find it there. And I do have another website. It's a little bit more general where I talk about my coaching services in general, and that's NataschaHebell.com. And so it's just my name, which is spelled a little bit different. So it's just NataschaHebell.com. And that's the best way to find me. Yes. And also on Instagram or Facebook, just with those handles. Yeah.
Again, you have a wealth of knowledge, and I think we're just tipping the iceberg. So I love to have you come back, and so since you come back, we're going to schedule that. And I also want to remind everybody who tuned in, all the links to Natascha's sites will be posted in the comments, so you can follow up with her. And remember, feedback is always welcome. Email us if you have any guest or show ideas. Links again will be posted in the comments, so please make sure you check out those comments. There's a lot of juicy nuggets down there. And thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, remember, give us a thumbs up. Let us know. Put some comments down there and below. And also, if you're enjoying all the insight that Natascha is sharing and all those who are coming on, please hit that subscribe button over there. And remember, take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And we'll see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. All right, bye-bye.
Share with us. What was one of your takeaways from today's show? Post your answers in the comments.